They sit you in a chair, they point a hypothetical pen in the middle of your forehead and tell you to do something. Make a story about pirates. Great, it's a simple topic, right? Pirates are pirates, but pirates can be a lot of different things when you stop to think a little deeper. So, most people in this situation will tell a very different story than the other person sitting next to them being threatened by the same hypothetical pen. Each person is unique with unique experience. So, what will be included in these stories that each person will write will be things that you like, inspirations, moments that you have already lived. It's something really very personalized. For some, it may emerge something more similar to what came to Eiichiro Oda's mind, and perhaps your story leans more to this extroverted, lighter side and such, but not everyone is like that. And for so many people, what will appear on the paper is the opposite of that, even though it's the same source theme. And then, a little fairy from the industry called Kenichi Noda comes by, someone for some reason we'll talk about all the time in this channel. But anyways, sprinkling some cool little powder, influencing another author to make it sprout the other side of the coin, the dirty, rough, and violence-filled sides of the pirate world, Black Lagoon. When I was starting out in the world of manga, anime and such, there were some names that always floated around. Even if you didn't even know what they were about, you recognized them because they were perhaps so popular. Of these names, many accumulated in certain legal groups in the sense that if you saw a person talking about X anime, they will talk about Y anime because maybe they are similar in theme, atmosphere and so on. For example, if you heard about another, it probably came along with your Elfen Lied, Mirai Nikki. I'm sure anyone who was here at that time knows what I'm talking about. But there's something curious that I've stopped to think about lately that I don't know if it's just me or if you also think this way because of the things you see out there. But Black Lagoon, Butoon, Bacano, Durarara, this one class of anime, you always use it to see people talking about them. I'm sure Evi was a lot of people's first waifu. But when I stopped to think about it, it's been many years since I've even heard of many of these works. I don't know if it's a country thing or if it's because people kind of let go of them in general and that they are perhaps unfortunately passing through the Haruhi disappearance effect, because imagine my face when I found out that the Black Lagoon manga that started in 2002 is still being released today. Like, huh? Even though it doesn't have nearly the same number of chapters as One Piece, because it's released monthly and had several hiatuses. It's almost the same age as One Piece. That's crazy, dude. What do you think about that? But then, at the time, I didn't care about anything. I was happy enough watching my little Naruto, watching my Death Note and my Steins Gate. Didn't care about the things people said, so I left it aside. Someday I will watch these things, and that day is today. The seas of South Asia, nothing like the smell of salt and bad people. Black Lagoon is a very interesting and perhaps not very conventional anime. We are already telling the story about pirates, and that's what's going to be a story of villains. If you think there will be a little hero who is a paragon of morality, who will immerse himself in the pirate world and make everything okay for those who watch, you are wrong. Because you may even like the characters, their personalities, but you always have to remember, those there are there not because they are good people. So unless you want to get shot between the legs, you better watch out. Yes, Black Lagoon is about deplorable people doing deplorable things in deplorable places, and that's the key to the popularity this anime once had. The story tells this perspective from the other side of the morality spectrum very well, in a way you don't see much around these days. So imagine when it came out, and it's certainly an anime, a manga, whose quality remains at a good level so many years later without perhaps becoming too dated. And violence runs rampant across the seas, and especially in the city of Ruanopra, Yeah, I've seen people saying in all different ways, and to this day I don't know what it was supposed to be. The wiki says run-upper, but because of the Japanese accents, they say something more similar to Ruanapra or Ruanapra. But anyway, it doesn't matter, the city isn't real, it doesn't really exist, but it would be located in the east of Thailand, just to give you an idea. Anyway, we follow the story of Rokuro Kajima, a Japanese Saragman dam. I thought this story was about pirates. Wait, he was being kidnapped by pirates, but some crazy stuff happens there. His boss tries to kill him for knowing too much about a secret program, and that's it. Okajima-kun died, theoretically, but he's alive, just really screwed. But at the end of this whole initial mess, he is offered two choices. The people who helped with his kidnapping were still there, so either he goes with the people who wanted to kill him back to Japan, or he joins up with the people who only kidnapped him for money. And for the story to exist, right, he chose to stay with the pirates, the Black Lagoon Company, and now these people will be the people he will work with and see practically every day, and not just a bunch of suits. This is Dutchy, the captain, the guy who makes everything happen, and from everything we see, he has a lot of backstory with all the characters, but it's not really shown in the anime, so you just accept that he's badass, don't ask much why. This is Rev, also known as Two Hands, crazy gun woman addicted and high on adrenaline, who gets into more gunfights than a rapper, and somehow gets shot less than someone who works delivering food in a shady neighborhood. And finally, Benny Boy, he does everything else needed in the operation. And now, Roku, that despite having lived his entire life within a corporate company in not a very exciting position, now finds himself part of the crew in the middle of the lawless seas out there. And he better show service, because as far as he know, dying for real this time, right, in that kind of work, it's just another Monday. So with this premise, you can already see that Roku is not a static character. He has to start from scratch and learn how to be a pirate, and his progress is very well done and cool to follow. He really is not a static character that was created like that just with a premise and that's it. You can perfectly see him changing according to the things that happen around him. He slowly grows and molds himself into a true citizen of the city at the end of the world. He may have his ideals, his preferences, but to be a pirate, they are not always necessary, right? Your job is literally to be on the edge of the law. You will steal ships, explode galleons, kidnap, traffic people, see people sleeping comfortably, catapulting themselves in front of you. Children, old people, young people, everything is part of the job. Dotting is off limits, because right, in the real world, there are no limits when it comes to this subject. And Black Lagoon also won't have any either, and will show you everything. Things in the story may even work out, but stuff going right for a pirate, does it really mean it's a good thing? This world of the underworld is explored very well here, sometimes even if it's to the detriment of the story, because there are times when not only Roku, but the entire Black Lagoon almost disappears from the story and is forgotten to favor other characters. But even so, everything that happens, the characters introduced are so well done, the charisma, the personalities, that sheesh, it's just amazing, and you are always in a situation where you don't know what to feel about them. Yeah, Bagaraika is awesome, she's so damn cool, but at the same time, she's the most disgraceful person in almost the entire story. You find yourself constantly in this dichotomy with all of the characters, all the sagas, everything. Unless you are a pirate or a criminal in real life, you can't even begin to identify yourself with anything here. It's a totally alien environment that you have to try hard to put yourself in their minds and maybe begin to understand their motivations, how they got there. Of course, it's not a perfect story. It has its bad points, its crazy trips which have nothing to do with the serious tone of the story. It's a thing that no important characters get shot in a shootout in the middle of a place with zero cover, guy going to fight against a army of gangsters with a sword or an axe without even have crazy little powers and coming out alive without a scratch. A mage who even in the story they make fun of for being like Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, child running around carrying a SMG bigger than them with more ease than a bodybuilder picking up a 1.5 kilos dumbbell. There are times that is so silly, there's no way. I'm not even going to talk about the insanity that is Roberta's OVA, but you kind of accept it without affecting your enjoyment of the story too much. You'll be just like, yeah, Okay. Because the truth is that Black Lagoon may have its many flaws, but when it gets right very well and with a lot of quality, in ways that make you finish the episode and spend a little while thinking after, that stays with you until days, weeks later. Situations where you know what has to be done there to make sense for everyone at that moment, but your moral sense is fighting with what you are seeing and you don't want it to happen, and it happens. Most of the time, good endings are not what happens when it comes to criminals, thieves, people who don't care about the word justice. No situation is something bad versus something good. It's something bad versus something bad. It's kind of bad versus very bad. It's all a very complex mesh. Everyone present in the story is a particular person with their own private lives, which are certainly not just simple personality stereotypes like many other works. It's Russian, American, Romanian, Colombian, Italian, Japanese, it doesn't matter. Everything receives attention, is developed, and has a very appropriate solution for what the story wants to show you. Apart from some things that are a little exaggerated, even if they don't tell you, you can get the idea more or less of what the lives of those characters were like until you get to that point in the story that we are following. And you see Ichiro with Goku, the only being in almost the entire story that you can have some kind of empathy for, the only one that perhaps you would understand more or less how he feels, but little by little, you lose even him. His eyes start to lose their shine, and his naivety begins to give way to the stench of gunpowder and an empty look very similar to those other people around him, because unlike you, he is living that. He's the one in the middle of strawberry juice and gunpowder, and you are just watching, witness him become another one of those swallowed by Guanapra, while you can do nothing but witness his fall. One which only has a single destiny, and you know which one. I'm saying that every anime bird from that time is a creature from hell.